Hi, I'm Gina Occhiogrosso. I'm honored to be included in this year's Hudson Mohawk Regional with my piece Tipping Point. It's acrylic ink and oil on cut and sewn muslin, and it was done this summer. I'm coming to you from my studio, and I have some work around me that I can show you as well. I wanted to thank Susan Cross from Mass MoCA for being selecting my work. She was the juror this year, and also the Albany Institute. I imagine this has been a very complicated year for putting this all together. I know Patrick's been taking videos and editing, and that also is a ton of work. So kudos to you guys. The piece I have in the show is titled Tipping Point, and it's really it was done at the beginning of the pandemic, and I was really thinking about this sort of universal empathy and us all sort of being in the same situation and thinking about how we're going to protect each other and how are we going to go on with our lives and connect but not be able to connect. So as I was working and sort of playing around with sort of abstract shapes, I was thinking about this idea of connection and tension, and so that's why you'll see this sort of shapes that pull apart and come back together. When you see one of my paintings, I think it's important to kind of come as close as you can because they're kind of subtle on the surface. So when you come forward, you'll see these shapes, and then you'll see these sort of layers. You'll see seams. The pieces begin by cutting and sewing muslin, and you can almost see you can physically see the fabric seams, the fabric showing through the back. So the selvage that's on the back of the piece, when you create a seam, that creates sort of a white banding in the image, almost an architectural kind of form. And then the spaces in between become sort of more atmospheric, or they have another value to them. And then I continue to sort of, I make lots of drawings to kind of consider the frame, to consider sort of push-pull of positive and negative spaces. Even though my paintings don't look very traditional, I mean, they're all based on traditional ideas about illusion in painting, and that sort of mysticism of taking, simple tools and making something have such great depth. And so I like to play around with the viewer a lot, so they think that they see one thing and then they come in and they're seeing, it's something quite different. I'm also really interested in materiality. It's rare that I will do a straight oil painting on canvas. I typically explore craft medium or different surfaces. Like this is muslin. It's not even canvas that's cut and sewn. It's a muslin fabric, very everyday fabric, something that's used to make patterns for other things. It's more utilitarian rather than fashionable. It stretches to the degree that the seams become really taut and they look silky almost. So it sort of gives the muslin a new life. And then it depends on where I'm going, what I'm doing. I could use oil or acrylic or textile paint. I do think about the tradition of male painters and women, fighting to sort of be in that realm of contemporary art and always trying to fight for their place. And I like this idea of being able to start with something that is liberating in a way, like, you sort of making these moments of color, and then you're cutting through, and then you're moving around, you're sewing them, and you're not so fully immersed and self-conscious about what you're doing at that moment. You have a little control, but not necessarily. And so what you get is this kind of interesting disruption of space. Something looks like it's going behind or in front, and things come together that are surprising, which is kind of what I like about collage. I like those chance encounters between disparate things. So as I continued to do these, I felt like, well, it's the same thing over and over again. Can I build up on that? Could I paint on top? And so I started to kind of work through these things by drawing, doing lots of drawings and trying to figure out how that could sort of play out. So there's some masking, there's some stenciling, there's some painting through. So there's just all different kinds of activities that happen on top that are responding to what happens on the primary surface. And I'm even starting to bring back a little bit of embroidery into the work. I was sort of doing a little bit of yarn work, adding yarn to the surface to sort of make it look like sort of a thicker paint. So another way of kind of creating that illusion, or sort of tricking people into thinking one thing from a distance, and then they see something else when they come up to the surface. So it's really important that you kind of come close when you look at work. And I think my work sort of operates on those levels. And so some more recent work that I'm doing has a little bit of embroidery. I'm just kind of playing around with that idea. And we'll just see how it goes.